So it's a combination of sleep, it's a combination of the right diet, it's a combination of the right stimulus of exercise. It's really doing those fundamentals that make a difference for you. And then it's doing these cool things like stem cells that completely changed my life.
Yeah. What do you think, having said that, what do you think is the greatest human skill? Not habit, but mindset and skill.
That's a great question. I don't know if I got what the greatest, there's so many. It depends on what you want out of your life, right?
Yeah.
But I think the ability to manage your own mind and emotions is probably one of the single most important. And maybe the second is the ability to influence others, because that's what makes you a leader. And hopefully you're doing that for a higher good, because there are all kinds of leaders, as you know. But I don't think most people are very good at emotional fitness. Most people are just not as happy as they could be. I did one book, Money Master the Game. It's kind of like this.
Yes.
Only what I did in that case is I interviewed 50 of the smartest financial people in the world,
Yes.
Ray Dalio, Carl Icahn, Warren Buffett, and out of 50 of them, and again, it's in my judgment, I could be completely wrong, and I've spent a lot of time with them. Some have become really good friends. There's probably 4 or 5 that are really happy people. You go, oh, well, money makes people unhappy. Money, it has nothing to do with money. Money makes you more of what you are. It just magnifies. If you're mean, you have more to be mean with. If you're kind, you have more to give, But I think that most people are they haven't learned to manage what's going inside. It doesn't matter how much abundance they have, they're still unhappy. We've all seen people great comedians that have killed themselves. Anthony Bourdain, beautiful man, traveled the world, killed himself, fashion designers that have done it. We've all seen all these different people, Kate Spade, and it's like, what? They had everything, except they didn't master what was going on here and here. And this is why you lived your life the way you have as well. So I think that skill set is the most important one. That's why even in the book, my last 2 chapters, I think are the most important, because it's really about power of the mind. Because everybody knows about placebos, right? They were only discovered in World War II, and it was discovered by accident. This doctor ran out of morphine, and he's treating these people that are badly injured. And you need the morphine not just so they're out of pain, but so they don't go into shock. And the actual person who discovered this gets no credit was the nurse, because the nurse handed him a syringe and said, we've got some more morphine. So he believed it, and he said, you'll be out of pain in just less than a minute. Wow. He injected them, and in every case, none of them went into shock. 90% of them were out of pain, and they used nothing. It was saline, right? So after World War II, he went back to Harvard, and he was the person that created what we now consider to be the double-blind studies, which are always compared to a placebo, right? And what most people don't know is, the bigger the placebo intervention, the more powerful the mind believes it. So a small pill is less effective than a big pill. An injection is more powerful than a pill in terms of its effectiveness. The most powerful is a sham surgery. The Veterans Administration did a study, and they did on people doing knee surgeries, and they took 1/3 of the people and they just cut them open, anesthetized them, and sewed them back up, did nothing. A year later, this group, the group that had no surgery, had the least amount of pain, the most amount of flexibility, so they stopped funding those surgeries, to give you an idea. But that's how powerful it is. And so it's even more than Harvard did a study where they took barbiturates, made these big red pills, and said, this is an amphetamine, you need to prepare your body because you're gonna speed up. They didn't give them something fake, they gave them an actual drug that slows the body down and the body sped up. So most people don't understand the power of the mind. And so what I've tried to do is show people, even in this book, here are the things that you can do to take control of your mind, because if you take care of your body and then you don't take care of your mind and emotions, you're gonna be miserable. It is, because unless you can push through discomfort, most things that are going to give you the greatest reward require discomfort initially.
Yeah.
Right? And the discomfort, it's like, my original teacher, Jim Rohn, used to always say, there's 2 pains in life, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He goes, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. And so I've trained myself to do that. And then I meditate. Then I always make an acknowledgement call briefly, or leave a voicemail for someone just to spark the day. And then the first thing I do is always whatever's the most difficult.
Yes.
Because then you have momentum for your day. And when you train your brain to do what's difficult first, then emotional fitness just comes naturally. And more importantly, so does achievement, so does your ability to contribute to other people. Because I have 105 companies now, to give you an idea. I manage 13 of them directly, ongoingly. And there are all kinds of different industries, from AI to my resorts in Fiji to sports teams I own. And I mean, it's insane, the dichotomy of them. We're doing $7 billion in business, so I gotta do that while I'm being a good dad to 5 kids and 5 grandkids, while I'm taking care of my body, while I'm living my normal mission. So if I don't take care of my body and my energy and my mind, I mean, you'd be overwhelmed by all the demands because, listen, all I got to do is pick up my phone and you're going to have all kinds of, oh, that's cool, oh, shit, that's it. Because, you know, what are the chances with thousands of employees on 3-4 different continents now that somebody's messing up? If messing up is not what I think they should be doing, it's 100%. So I'd always be in reaction until I trained my brain to say, no, you know, problems are a sign of life and all they are challenges to be solved. And what makes you a great leader is your ability to solve problems or teach teams to build a culture where they can solve problems. And so it gives me this tremendous creativity and flexibility, but I've got the base of energy to make it work. I first of all I agree with what Jacques told you, which is, you know, dealing with the loss of someone you care about is probably the most difficult thing of all. I would say maybe as a child, seeing the level of frustration between my parents, you know, I had 4 different fathers, and watching them kind of, you know, accept whatever life gave them it's why a lot of my drive came about, is seeing my fathers be berated by my mother, who I love dearly, and just watching them break down. Like, you know, probably the single most painful event of my life, but also shaped me in such a beautiful way, was when I was 11 years old. We had no money for food, and it was Thanksgiving, which in America is a, you know, big holiday feast. And so we'd been without food before. We'd have crackers and butter, and, you know, we survived, but we weren't gonna have a Thanksgiving feast. And there was a knock at the door, and I go to the door, and there's this giant guy there with groceries in each hand. He had a pot beside him on the ground with an uncooked turkey. And I said, who are you here for? He goes, I'd like to speak to your father. And my mom and dad were yelling at each other, saying things that you can never take back. And I'm trying to make sure my younger brother and sister, they're 5 and 7 years younger, wouldn't hear any of this. And that day changed my life because I thought it was gonna be the most exciting day. Dad, go to the front. What is it? I said, it's for you. You answer it. No, it's for you. I remember I opened the door and I was just so excited to see my father be happy. Like, we're gonna have a feast. This is gonna be incredible. And he got angry. And he's like, we don't accept charity. He went to slam the door in the man's face. And the man's foot was there, so it bounced off his foot. He still opened the groceries. He's like, sir, I'm just a delivery guy. He said, it's not charity. Everybody has a tough time. Someone bought this and they're sending it to you as a gift. My father said, we don't take charity. He goes to close the door again. This time the guy's shoulder was there also, so it bounced off again. And then I was standing right there, and there's this moment I'll never forget where this man looked at my father, and he looked at me and he said, sir, don't let your ego make your family suffer. And the veins on my dad's face, on the side of his neck, I'll never forget, they bulged, like his face turned red. I thought I was gonna punch him in the face. And then there's this moment, my dad's shoulders dropped, he took the groceries, slammed the door, didn't say thank you, and stormed off. And I was remember thinking, like, how come he's not happy? You know, you talk about pain, it's like, I love my father so much. And there's basically 3 decisions that I think everybody makes in their life, that whether aware of it or not, moment to moment. I figured this out afterwards because I was so obsessed with what's wrong, because he eventually left our family. And that was the most painful thing I ever had. So it's like feeling like I failed, you know, I blame myself, like, why couldn't I get through to my father? You know, I was 11 years old. But later on, it helped me understand the 3 decisions are, first, you gotta decide what to focus on. Every moment of your life, there's something grabbing your focus, and you don't experience life, you experience the part of life you focus on, right? What's wrong is always available, so is what's right, right? And there are different kinds of focus. And my dad's focus that day was really on what he hadn't done. And I know that because he kept muttering it. You know, he hadn't taken care of his family, there's no money for Thanksgiving, somebody had to give us charity. And then the second decision you make about once you focus on something is, what does it mean? Is this the end or the beginning? If you think it's the end of a relationship, you're gonna behave different than it's the beginning, right? My dad's meaning was that he was worthless. And so then the third decision is, what do I do? Which, whatever meaning you come up with creates the emotions, which affects what you do, and what he decided to do is leave our family. But for me, it was like, this is amazing. I mean, you know, we haven't having Thanksgiving. You know, this is incredible. We got food, what a concept. And then the meaning, though, is what changed my whole life, which was, wow, strangers care. That completely changed my life. That painful experience, I couldn't deny that somebody who wanted no credit delivered this food to my family. And so what I decided to do is say, someday I'm gonna do this for another family. So when I was 17, I had 2 families, and it was a euphoric experience. I went in jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't go like the delivery guy, but I wanted to see the face of the people. And then next year was 4 people, and then it was 8. And my thing was doubling. And I had a little company, and then I got to 1 million people a year, and then I got to 4 million people a year. Then when I was doing Money Master the Game, I'm interviewing these billionaires, Jay, and I'm watching Congress cut food stamps. It's now called the SNAP program. by, I think it was $6 billion. So every family that actually needs food, and my family was one of those back then, they all have to come up with a week's worth of food out of every month. So I was like, I called my team and I said, how many people have I fed in my lifetime? I didn't know there was 42 million meals. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I was like, what if I fed 50 million people, like my entire lifetime in 1 year? And there was like, what if I did 100 million? What if I fed 1 billion people in 10 years? So that was 7 years ago. We're at 850 million meals, right? And I'm gonna hit the billion earlier than what I promised and targeted, and then I've got a sustainable approach. But I tell you that because my worst day was my best day. The most painful day, the day where I felt like I'd do the least, where I felt impotent, led me to have new understandings, new skills, new capacities, new drives, new hunger. I mean, would I really be feeding 100 million people a year, 100 million meals a year if I was well fed as a child? Probably not. You know, I'd love to believe I'm such a perfect person, but no, I just know what suffering feels like, so I don't want anybody else to suffer, you know? Yeah. So I think sometimes the suffering experiences of our life, if we don't let them crush us, we let them drive us, they actually become the best day in your life. And taking your worst day and making your best day is a beautiful target for anybody.
But it was so fascinating to me because it's exactly what you just said.
Yes.
You can't disconnect the two. And going on that, you said focus and mood about your father.
Yes.
You have a whole section in here dedicated to focus and mood.
Yes.
Walk us through that, because what you just explained to us is the emotional focus and mood of your father.
Yes.
But here you're talking about how the physicality of focus and mood can affect us.
They go together.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of how powerful they are for the psychological side. Right now, you know, out of COVID, so many people have been shut down, terrible place. And you know, I'm sure you've seen that drug overdoses are the largest they've ever been in history. It was over 100,000 people last year. Suicides, 1 out of 4 kids under the age of 30, according to the CDC, whether they're accurate or not, I don't know, have considered suicide sometime in the last 2 years. Because we all need a compelling future. We need something to look forward to. So Stanford came to me, and their genetics lab has been doing research on depression. And what they found was that by doing meta-studies, is only 40% of the people who go in for therapy, who they get drugs and therapy together usually, only 40% make any improvement. 60% don't improve at all. That's not a lot more than what you can get on some placebos. And so they approached me and said, a couple of people went through one of your programs. One was clinically depressed, they're not anymore, but we don't have any science on this. Would you be willing to let us do a science test? And I said, sure. So they came out to the State with Destiny seminar I do, which helps people to change their values and belief structures. I don't tell them what they need to be, they figure out what it needs to be. And it changes the way you perceive life, the way you experience life, how you feel, what you do. It's a rewiring of your model of the world, basically, in 6 days. And so they said, we're gonna model this after the greatest breakthrough they found in science and no one able to follow up on. About 2 years ago, Johns Hopkins did a study on depression, and they gave people psilocybin, right, which comes from magic mushrooms. And they did therapy for 30 days. And at the end of it, 53% of the people were depression-free 30 days later. Never happened. Like when we say 40% are helped, the average amount of help is 50% less depressed, right? That's what the average is. Some people completely turn around, some people don't. In this one, 53% of the people. So it's 4 times the result of any drug that ever been done. But unfortunately, psilocybin's not legal, so they're still working on that. And they said, we're gonna copy that exact study. And we're gonna have a group that they compared to, which is, didn't go to the seminar, the comparison group is gonna do gratitude journaling and so forth, because positive psychology talks about that. And they said that's probably what this seminar does, is just positive thinking. Well, the cool thing was when they came out, the results were so amazing at Stanford that they went and had 2 new additional double-blind people do the research because it just seemed so ridiculous. At the end of the first week, 63% of people had no depression symptoms. At the end of 6 weeks, it can increase through time. 100% of the people had no depression symptoms. 19% of the people had suicidal ideation. 0 had suicidal ideation. It blows away any study. It just came out. It's coming out next week in the Psychiatric Journal, which is Journal of American Medical Association, Psychiatric Journal are the 2 top journals in the field. They can't even believe it, so they're going to do more. And the actual scientific article says this is more powerful than any drug therapy or any forms of normal therapy combined. And what are we doing? We're getting people to change basically those 3 questions to some extent, because your values control what you focus on. If you're security driven and you're here down in my basement right now, you're like, where's the exit, right? You came down a slide, like, how do I get out of here, right? If you're adventure driven, you don't care. You don't even know where it is. So your focus is controlled by your values and your belief systems, right? The meaning of things is controlled by your belief systems. So those three decision-making things, what I'm going to focus on, what does it mean, what I'm going to do, shift. And one good example of this, Jay, is, and maybe your audience can relate to this, is that we just took three patterns. So let's say focus, most people have a focus either on what they have or what's missing. We all do both. But what do you think most people focus on more often? What they have or what's missing?
What's missing?
That's right. Now, even achievers do that. Like, it's not like somebody's not successful. It's one of the reasons you see these achievers that no matter what they do, it's never enough. Just think about it. If you're always focusing what's missing from your life, how can you sustain happiness? It's software that will not allow that. You'll feel happy for a little moment and then you'll notice it's missing again. What do you think more often people focus on? What they can control or can't control?
What they can't control.
Yeah. In my seminars, it's can control. That's why they go. I want to learn how to take control of my body or my finances or my business, whatever it is. So it's the opposite. But the average person, it's what they can't control. And with COVID, there's so much you can't control around you that people really sunk in that. Well, how's someone going to feel? Just everyone think about it. If you're constantly focused on what's missing from your life and what you can't control. And then I'll add one more. Do you focus more on the past, the present, or the future? We all do all three, but we tend to have one we focus more on. Where do you think more people focus?
Past.
That's right. And achievers focus on the future, and happy people on the present. So that, if you're going to be an achiever, the ideal is the present, so you experience it, anticipating the future, so you can shape your life, right?
Yeah.
But the past you can't change. So I ask people in seminars, you got stadium 15, 20,000 people, and I'll say, how many of you know somebody that takes antidepressants and they're still depressed? And 80% of the room raise their hand saying they know somebody.
Wow.
Well, how come? Because all antidepressants do is numb you so that you're less intense, but they don't deal with the source of the problem, which is you're constantly seeing what's missing. And it doesn't matter whether you're successful or not. That's why there are these people that have been wealthy and take their own life. They see what's missing. They focus on all the things they can't control. There's plenty we can't control. But there's plenty we can influence and plenty we can't control. Just a couple of changes like that completely change someone's life. And so those changes in the beliefs and values change what they look moment to moment, change their experience of life. They're no longer depressed.
Yeah.